Welcome back to Redefine Entertainment Review, where we review things all entertainment. Today, our discussion is going to be about the current state of the DCEU. Welcome back. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and hit notifications so you can stay up to date on all of our reviews of all things entertaining. My name is Steve Matonti.
My name's Ian Phillips. So today we're going to be starting off by covering the Man of Steel, then going into the Batman v Superman, Suicide Squad, Wonder Woman, Justice League, basically giving our overall thoughts on each individual movie, as well as how they've contributed and basically added to giving us what we have as the current DCEU.
So Ian, let's go ahead and start with Man of Steel, directed by Zack Snyder, that came out in 2013, the very first movie in the DCEU, which we were not aware that they were going to build a larger universe, per se, when they came out. What were your thoughts about Man of Steel when it came out?
So I can actually remember to the day the first time I saw this movie. I was actually still living in Tennessee at the time. I went and saw it by myself at a little rinky-dink theater just down the street from my apartment. And I can remember leaving that movie actually being very, very, very excited about what they were planning for Superman. Now, like we discussed before, we had no idea they were planning on a larger DC extended universe from here. All we really had was that they were looking like they were going to make some more Superman movies.
So I was super excited when I saw it, because Superman is definitely by far my favorite superhero movie. At my wedding, I wore a Superman shirt underneath my tuxedo and had to look like I was ripping it off. It also meant a lot, too, that the day it came out, I remember, was June 14th of 2013, because that was my birthday. So what I loved about Man of Steel is that it did take a realistic look. It put Superman in the world that we are all living in, and I like how they took that scientific approach to when they were on Krypton, and we saw a little bit more of what was going on Krypton, so you felt a little bit more of the stakes between General Zod and Jor-El than you did, per se, in the original Superman, which I liked.
It was a lot more character development we got for General Zod, definitely more so in this than in the Christopher Reeves version. Obviously, going in, having seen all the extended stuff that we got to see on Krypton, what led up to the destruction of it, what General Zod actually attempted to do to kind of, I don't know if it was a matter of saving the planet or a matter of just saying, I'm just taking control of things because you guys have completely lost control of what's going on here.
I like the story that they made of just saying with the Codex and how they have gone beyond the idea of normal birth and reproduction, that they were doing it genetically, that General Zod was specifically made to be a general. That is the way his mind worked. Scientists were made to be scientists, and I just thought that was incredible in saying, okay, Kal-El, Superman, is actually the first natural birth in I don't know how many years, but then also showing the fact that they have colonized multiple planets over the centuries, and I thought that was really awesome, because that almost can easily tie into a Green Lantern story, because they have been all over the cosmos, and I thought that's how they were going to take that.
Yeah. Now, moving even forward there, from the destruction of Krypton, I actually also really liked how they branched out and showed us a lot more of Clark Kent as a young man. Like, really dived into what life was like for him, because the origin story in any other Superman movie we've gotten, mainly the Christopher Reeves movie, was very, very brief. He was an unusual kid. He had some interesting powers. And that was basically all we got. We got a little high school interaction.
See, that is actually where I think that Man of Steel started to fall short, because with it being called Man of Steel and not Superman, I felt like the entire movie, because it was an origin story, and they really didn't do too much with him once he was Superman, that I thought that after having seen the movie, I go, okay, this is a Man of Steel movie. They're gonna be coming out with a Superman movie, and how they transition him from simply the Man of Steel to the title of Superman, being that extremely high moral superhero, and that he does not kill, because obviously the biggest critique I think that they got outside the actual movie-making process is simply what happened to the person who will do the right thing no matter what, will not let innocents die, and then you have that crazy city scene where buildings are getting destroyed, and that didn't really fit into it. So I thought that is what they were going to go.
I do have to throw one critique, and I know that was a big critique on the movie, with Superman went out of his, seemed like he was going out of his way to not take the fight away from the city. But if we really go back and we look at some of the other comic book mediums that we have to go off of, some of the TV shows, comic books in themselves, some of the animated movies, there's not been a lot of instances where they didn't go to great lengths to destroy whatever city it was that they were fighting. I can't tell you how many times I've rewatched the Justice League animated series, I've rewatched some of the animated movies, and at the end of every single one of those fight scenes, the city is just absolutely destroyed. And I thought it was kind of unfair to Zack Snyder to throw that critique on him, given we've seen huge amounts of destruction.
I think it was because it was a rush. They didn't come out with General Zod until Superman 2. And even when they did do that, they came to like a Midwestern town when they were destroying it. So it was there was no casualty rate. It was more of a destruction of this small town, with having those townspeople come and try to fight back, and obviously losing to the wind blow that they did. But you didn't have major destruction of the city. You didn't even have major destruction of the city in Superman 4, when you had two superheroes fighting each other, and even then it was still minimal going there. So I think that was the problem. Yes, I enjoyed the origin story of seeing what he was like, sort of going from city to city and job to job, helping people, kind of discovering that his job was to help people. But I would say out of a scale of 10, I would have given Man of Steel, for the fact that it started off the franchise. I think that Henry Cavill was a fantastic Superman. He couldn't help necessarily the writing or the storytelling, but I do think that if he had a little bit more creative control going forward, knowing the character of Superman in the way that they do with a lot of superhero movies, letting that actor have a part in what they're going to be creating, I think it would have done a lot better. But I would have to give it a score of 8 out of 10.
That's fair. I was going to give it a 7. That's
a 7?
I think a 7 was the fair score for that one. Again, like Steve said, it kicked off the DCEU. They were really playing kind of, not sure what direction they were wanting to go with it. I'm sure the DCEU wasn't something they concretely had set in stone. And with what they were working with, I definitely think that they did a good job with what they had, knowing the future of what they were going to be doing moving forward was kind of up in the air.
Next up, Batman vs. Superman, that came out in 2016, also directed by Zack Snyder. Ian?
Okay, now, we gave a lot of praise to Man of Steel, in spite of, I think it got a lot more critiques than I think was fair. Now, Batman v Superman, we're going to the other side of the spectrum. I'm about to go full 180, because I think this is where the DCEU shot itself in the foot. Right out of the gates, I think they tried to introduce way too much. I think we should have gotten a few more solo movies before they started putting everybody together. The whole experience felt disjointed. I literally felt like I sat in a theater and I watched 3 separate movies shoehorned into one.
It was
film.
rushed. It was so rushed. Ben Affleck had not had the opportunity to be able to show a different kind of Dark Knight, retired, broken Batman, which I was unsure about Ben Affleck, but the one saving grace of this movie is the fact that Ben Affleck actually, to all of our surprise, was an amazing Batman.
Yeah, I thought he did phenomenal. Again, and I had a lot of doubt about his ability to play Batman. I think he did, in spite of some of the other actors, where I think you can look at some of the other actors that have played Batman and you can say he was a great Batman, not a great Bruce Wayne. I think it's almost like the Spider-Man Peter Parker conundrum.
It would have been a great Bruce Wayne if you explained exactly who this Batman was.
Yeah.
While I haven't read every single comic, I do understand the Dark Knight storyline of this is a broken man who has lost already his Robin. He has lost a few loves of his life. He is just broken. He no longer believes in justice and the criminal system. He is no longer just dropping people off at, prisons and to the police to let them do it. Too many people had gone away. And he is now gone to the point where he is okay with killing.
Yep.
And if you were to explain that storyline in your solo Ben Affleck Batman movie and then came together the Batman vs Superman, I thought that would have been a much better idea. Now, introducing Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman in that movie is fantastic because she has not come out with her own movie and she was such a small supporting role, but to have a title, Batman vs Superman, but you have not had a Superman movie followed by a Batman movie, I think is just ridiculous and lazy in my opinion.
It's and really the first arc of the movie really seemed like we should have got. It seemed like it was a much more diluted, crammed in version of the Batman movie we should have gotten, which eventually led into the conflict between Batman and Superman.
If Batman vs Superman was a Batman movie and his villain in it was Superman, that would have been a great way that you could have brought them together, but it wasn't. It was a Superman movie,
and
Batman came in as the what is it called? The other hero,
the anti-hero.
The anti-hero. But that's not what they did, and it was almost like Batman was a non-established anti-hero that should have had his time in the light.
To be honest, I think a great story to have told because, one, if they'd have done it the way that it was done in the comics, it would have been a great opportunity to give a little insight into who the Joker is, and then maybe his role in the Suicide Squad wouldn't have been so meh.
It's what I would say is it's lazy. It was lazy writing. They were trying to rush to keep up with Marvel, and we all felt it. They were making the movie for themselves and not necessarily for us, and that we can feel that, and that's why I think it totally failed. And I have to give the rating for Batman vs Superman a 5. The movie was created. They came out with it. I was pleasantly surprised by Ben Affleck, but the reason why I can't possibly give it more than a 5 is because nothing flowed. It went too fast. They rushed the entire thing. It almost made it to where I couldn't even just sit back and be enjoyed by the entertainment. And how can we end it with not talking about Martha Gate?
Oh, God.
Oh,
how did that not get brought up?
Martha, how did we not bring that up? I walked out of that theater going, Martha!
That was literally that was the Step Brothers moment. It's like, your name is Martha too? Did we just become best friends?
That was the worst.
Yeah.
And what do you give it?
I'm also going to give it a 5 out of 10. And again, I've got to go right back to what Steve was saying. I think if you'd have given the actors a even halfway decent script, we're talking 8 or 9 out of 10 because the actors did phenomenally
for what they
were given. And I think what they were given was a big steaming pile of dog crap, and they made the best. They made the best crap sandwich they could have made with it.
Oh, without a doubt.